Hey everyone, it's the Urban Investor back with another video, and today is the 1st of December, so it's quite fitting to look at my top 5 coins for December. So I know in my previous video I've said I would look at the top 3, however there are a few more good opportunities out there, so let's jump straight into it and see which ones they are. Now, without further ado and in no particular order, I want to begin with ARK. Now, with ARK, we saw this descending triangle and then we had a breakout, and around about this time when early November, a couple of weeks ago, when ARK was approaching the 50k sat mark, this is when I did my video and highlighting to you guys out there, this is a potential opportunity to open a position. Now, since then, what's happened? It's approached the 50k mark and we've seen a rejection. And when we look at the historics, we can see back in September and then roughly at October, this has been a level of resistance in September and essentially a level of support around October, albeit it broke through. So for me, I think this is going to be again another testing level as we come back here. I'll come back up. This is what I expect. And what this means for me is, am I going to FUD and sell my holdings? No. I think all this means is you guys get a better deal, a more of a discount than I did. I did actually, true to my word, open a position using dollar cost averaging. I've had various positions opened at the 50k, 42k, 45k mark, and I may add to my positions at these further lows. Now, in terms of downside risk, I don't think there's a lot more in terms of risk. Obviously, this is my personal opinion, my view, not financial advice. I think it could go as low as the 25k sat mark, but I think at the moment we can see a couple of green candles, and I think this might be a turning point for another mini run. Now, what do I feel in terms of opportunities if you guys do feel this is a good level to get in? So if we have the fib retracements open here, we can see my first sell level would be around about the 60k sat mark, and that's at the 32% fib level round about here, and this is just slightly under the 38. As always, we're going to go slightly below to avoid potential institutional sell-offs, and I'm going to sell 50% of my holding here, and then we'll move up around about 73k mark, which is again slightly below the 50% fib level, and here I'll sell my remaining 25, and then my final 25 I plan to sell at the 61.8% retracement level, which is up here. So for me, just to summarize before I move on, yes, ARK has broken through the 21, the 50, 100 and the 200 day, which doesn't look good from a TA point of view. But for me personally, we can see it climb back up. It's approaching and closing the gap with the simple moving average lines. And also we're at the lower end, so the downside risk is minimal. We can see it might come back down slightly, but I think from here we've seen previous levels of support, and I can see ARK going back up again as we go into December. And my final point here is just patience. Really, we're not going to make gains overnight. This is a game of patience. Let's have the patience and see this through. So that's it from ARK. Let's move on to my next coin. So moving on to coin number 2, which is OMISEGO. So similar to ARK, we can see a descending triangle and almost deja vu. Again, around about November, early November, I did a video suggesting around about the 90k to 100k, anything between below 100k rather is a good entry point. Now, where are we now? OMISEGO is trending around about 86k, so that's a nice discount below my recommended level. So again, it means you guys get a further discount. And in terms of resistance, we can see, if I move my pen out of the way, we're holding at this level nicely. Yes, we've broken through the 50-day. We're having a battle to hold the 21 day, but I think for me the real only concern here is whether we break through significantly, because the next level of support isn't until around about the 50k sat march, which is a significant drop. So I think for me personally, I'm quite bullish, and looking at the green candles, this is a good sign to suggest we're going to hold at this level and go beyond. So I think for me with OMISEGO, again, it's a great project. I know I had a lot of comments in my video to suggest actually I'm being a bit too short-termist. Again, guys, it's entirely up to you how you want to play this. And I think, as I said, with ARK, this is a game of patience. So what does that mean from a technical point of view in terms of selling positions? So I think for me, again, using fib retracement levels to take the emotion out and use the tool to help us set the levels, I'm suggesting my first level of sell action or selling position is the 38% mark, slightly under as always, which is around about the 170k sat level. And here I'm going to sell 50% of my portfolio. And I think for me personally, we can see not the greatest of lines, but here we can see there was a huge amount of resistance. So I think we might be achieving this again. So that's one of the key reasons why I'm selling a big chunk of my portfolio. And again, the 200k mark, which is not too far off, again more towards the top of this bunch here back in August time. And again, looking to sell the remaining 50% as a result. So because of this historical price action that we've seen, I'm expecting, if we get to those levels again, a similar sort of resistance. So I think that's why I'm looking to close my position. This does not mean I'm not long term on OMISEGO. I think it's a great project. However, what I would be looking to do is close my position and then hopefully see a pullback and then open up a position again. So that's my 2 cents on OMISEGO. Let's move on to the next coin. Now looking at Litecoin. So Litecoin I am very bullish about. I'm very positive for the long run, and I think it's a great project. Now, like the other coins, we saw Litecoin going through a descending triangle, and then we had this breakout, and then I think we saw a bit of a barrier with the million Satoshi mark. Now again, using the historics, I think it's always good to look at the historics, because everything sort of repeats itself with the nature of markets with cycles. So we can see this was a key level of support in both cases, and now for the third time in a row it's been a level of resistance. Now I think if Litecoin can break this 1 million Satoshi mark, this key psychological level, I think the sky's the limit. We've seen in the past with the previous cycles, when Litecoin does break out, it does go crazy. And I think when you just look at this area here, you can see there's significant growth here. Apologies for the lines. Now I think this is again a good opportunity. Again, we might have the Korean volume come in, we might have another catalyst, and when it does go on a run, it does really go on a big run. So I think for Litecoin, again, in terms of downside risk, I don't think there's a massive heap of downside. We could come back down to this 7.5 million level. However, I think at the minute it's holding nicely for me personally, because I'm more long term on this. For me, the way I see it is not a flooding opportunity and a big sell-off, more of a cheaper sort of position to add to your current portfolio or get in at the lows. So I think for me, if we can break this psychological barrier, then the sky is the limit. But for now, I think it's done great comparative to Bitcoin. There's been a lot of coins in the run-up that's really lost a ton of its Bitcoin comparative value, but Litecoin's done great. So what does that mean from a selling point of view? So for me, again, using the fib tool, trying to set the best optimal levels, my personal levels are going to be at 1.26, around about that level, just below the 50% rather. As I've said, I think when Litecoin goes on a run, it really does go on a run. So I'm expecting some mad price action when it does breach that 1 million Satoshi mark. So I'm looking to sell 50% on my portfolio here, and then the remaining 25% of my portfolio at the 62 and the 100% fib levels, which are around about 1.4 million and 1.85 million in terms of sats. So let's move on to the next one. Now, Ethereum for me, similar to the previous coins that we saw, is on a descending triangle. However, it concerns me a bit more than some of the others. If we compare it to Litecoin, for example, Litecoin has had a couple of cycles throughout the year where it's come up, it's come back down, it's gone up, and it's come back down. However, with Ethereum, it's just gone one way since June. So for almost 6 months, it's been on a downtrend. Now, we did see a couple of signs of sort of support and coming back up to the 6 million mark, but then again we saw the rejection as we can see here. So for me, I think if we can break that 6 million psychological barrier, then onwards and upwards, I should say rather. However, I think I'm still a little concerned in terms of how high and how long it will take. So I think the good news here is it's holding the 21 and the 50 day. I think the 4 million Satoshi mark is probably a key level of support, and I think for me, if I was to go in at an entry point, I would not get in at the minute, although we're at relative lows. I would wait a bit more and get in around about the 4 million mark, and then I would look to sell at the 6 and 7 million. So this is denoted by the two dotted lines. Now the reason for that is if we look at the lines, is we can see, as I said, this has been a key psychological barrier, and then again at various levels here we can see it's been levels of resistance and support. So I think for me this is going to be a tricky level if we get past the 6 million to cross. So for that particular reason, when I set my fib levels, I'm looking to sell my complete position at the 6 and 7 million, because I don't think we'll go straight back up. We'll see some resistance at these levels and come back down. So I think I'd rather close my position and move on to the next one, or open up a position again at lows. So I think this is a tricky one, because I think we've been on such a downtrend, and for 6 months it's not really shown any real signs of picking up. However, I think it's up to you guys. As I said, if you're long on Litecoin, it's got a decent project, it's been adopted. However, I think it's going to take quite some time to get back up to the highs of June, hence why I'm looking to close my positions early and potentially open up again at further lows or resistance when we reach that level. So now let's move on to my final coin. Now, last but not least is GRS, which is GROESTLCOIN. So I did do a video early on showing how much gains I made in a short space of time. I think this is a great coin to get in for a quick swing trade, and if we look at the current level, it's holding nicely at the 6k mark. When I made my gains, it was slightly higher at the 7k. Yeah, I still made some significant upside. So I think for 6k, this is a great entry point. We can see, looking at the technical analysis, the 21-day and 50-day is holding nicely, and I think for me, when you use the fib, we can see it's quite volatile, and as a result there's some great opportunities to sell. So for me personally, I would be looking to get in at the 6k and then sell 50%, because it's quite volatile, around about the 11k mark, which is just below the 38% retracement level, and that's half of my portfolio. The remaining 25 at the 50% level, and then finally the final bit at the 14.5k sat level, which is the 61 retracement level. Now, one more good news I have for GRS is they do regular updates, and the next major development release is around about in 24 days, which is around about, I think, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day time. So I think if you hold until then, we might see some traction and some further sort of opportunities and maybe some massive growth. So I think with this major update impending, as well as the market looking good from a TA point of view, this is a great entry point. So just to summarize, because I don't want to go on any longer, I think it's been around about 15 minutes. So hopefully this has been very useful for you guys, my top 5 coins. Do let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.